Today's episode number 57. Today's Monday, August 31, 2020. Net worth and liquidity, qualifying for a commercial loan. This is the 39.6 Facebook Live Finance Show, the show that teaches you how to make your money work for you so you don't have to work for your money. We talk general investing, taxes, real estate, syndications, Airbnb, and even the car you drive. Again, today's episode is episode number 57. Yesterday's episode is 56. We talked about Element 41, our current 506c syndication deal. We were on the call for about an hour and a half with Vina and Ellie. That was a wonderful show. If you have not seen it, please check it out. And thank you to everybody who's joined our Facebook group. We're up to almost 440 members, I believe, and trying to get to 500 by September 7th. We have 7 more days to get there. So if you all would please invite 0.2 of your friends, we'll get, we should pretty much be there. All right, we have 7 people in here. Is the audio working and video? Please let me know, and we will go ahead. Okay, so net worth and liquidity. Now, we had an episode previously about am I over leveraged? Okay, that episode was back, that was one of the early episode 30s, okay? And we talked about being leveraged. And liquidity is one of those things related to leverage and how much cash you also have with respect to being in a safe position. If you're over leveraged, you could be a little bit unsafe financially. And if you are too illiquid, you can be a little bit unsafe financially, okay? So when you're actually qualifying to get a commercial loan, it's not like buying a house. When you buy a house, they want to see that you have income. They like to see W-2 income so you can make those mortgage payments over the long haul. They like to see a down payment. Okay, if you put 20% down, banks feel like that's a safe percentage to have somebody put down so that if they were to walk away from it, they could still take over the property, sell it, and not lose money. Okay, buying a commercial property is completely different, especially buying big commercial properties, because your income is not going to be able to sustain that mortgage, right? So they're primarily looking at the asset itself and how it performs as a business to see if you're going to be able to actually keep up the payments on that property. Now, in order to qualify for it, though, beyond just having the numbers from the rental income and expenses, you have to actually put some money down, and you still have to have some money left over, okay? And you need to be worth a certain amount so that it puts a little bit more credibility that you're going to really keep up with those payments. So let's pretend I wanted to buy a $5 million property by myself, okay? All by myself, completely alone. The bank or the agency which I'm using would want to see that I have $5 million of net worth. Okay, they wouldn't want me, they would want to make sure that my net worth is at least equal to the mortgage. Okay, so if I'm putting, let's say, $1 million down and $4 million mortgage, they would want to make sure my net worth is at least $4 million. Okay, the other thing they will want to look at is my liquidity after closing. Okay, I had mentioned before in the Am I Over Leveraged episode, you don't want to use up all your capital on the down payment, okay? Because if you use all your money on the down payment, you have no money left in order to actually keep up with any surprises in the near future, okay? So a commercial lender is going to want you to have 10% of the loan amount in post-closing liquidity. Okay, that's a little complicated, but what that means is, let's pretend you're going to borrow $4 million to buy a $5 million property. You put $1 million down, okay, your mortgage is $4 million. They want you to have $400,000 left in liquid assets that you have available after the closing has been completed. So you need to have $1 million for the down payment, but another $400,000. Now, this is something very reasonable to think about in your own finances. If you take a mortgage for $500,000, keeping $50,000 completely liquid at all times is probably quite prudent, okay? So they look at these two things. Now, it gets a lot more complicated if you're buying a much bigger property. If you're going to buy a, let's say, $100 million property, and you have, let's say, $30 million as a down payment, then your mortgage is $70 million. Your net worth would have to be $70 million in order to qualify for that mortgage. And you would need to have $70 million mortgage, you need to have $7 million of liquid assets after closing. So if you had put $30 million down at closing, you would need to have $37 million in total before proceeding to get this deal under contract, because you need $30 million for the down payment and another $7 million afterward in liquid assets. Now, it can be invested money. It can be in a taxable brokerage account, but they don't even count retirement assets in your post-closing liquidity. They want that cash to be readily accessible. Okay, so even if you find a great deal and get it under contract at a great price, if you don't have enough net worth and liquidity to qualify for that loan, then you can't get that deal done. So you will often see on big projects, there will be a number of people on the general partner, on the sponsor team, because those general partners and sponsors can all be considered guarantors on that note, and they make you list all of your assets and your liabilities on what's called a personal financial statement. Okay, so you can get your net worth and then also show proof of your liquidity. And if you put all of those guarantors together, you can sum those together to meet the requirements. So going back, for example, a $100 million property, $70 million mortgage, you could have, let's say, 3 sponsors on the deal. And if combined, they have a net worth of $70 million and they have $7 million of liquid assets that will still be available after closing the note and closing on the property, then they would be able to meet those criteria. Now, those are not the only criteria, but those are 2 of the criteria. Okay, so sometimes you'll have a general partner, a sponsor of a deal, or a couple of partners or co-sponsors, and they don't have enough net worth or liquidity for that particular deal. So they may take on additional general partners. They may take on additional people called key principal investors or guarantors. So they will be included on the mortgage itself, listed there as guarantors of the note. So if for some reason, and this gets a little bit complicated between recourse and non-recourse loans, but a guarantor is somebody who's supposed to guarantee that the mortgage will get paid if the people in charge of paying the mortgage can't get it done. Okay, so sometimes you'll see key principal investors be included on the note. You might not hear about it as an investor. Sometimes you will. Sometimes a general partner will communicate and find people who are they're interested in being a key principal investor because they want their net worth or liquidity to count toward the total. Okay, so this is a very important thing. Now, I think about this myself in just managing my own finances. I look at our net worth and our liquidity, and I think having a 10% ratio of net worth to our liquidity to net worth is a pretty reasonable place to be as kind of a buffer. Like if you're worth $2 million, having at least $200,000 of liquid assets in a taxable brokerage account and or your checking accounts is a good place to be. Okay, if you're worth $10 million, having $1 million of that in liquid places that can be accessed is probably a good place to be. Just because when you have assets that big, if you have more than 90% of your money in illiquid assets, if there are surprises with these illiquid assets or otherwise, it gives you a good buffer to draw from. And also, if you're interested in being a key principal or a guarantor on a multifamily property, having some liquidity and net worth, both of those two things can certainly help a team of sponsors who might need some other members to help them out in meeting those minimum requirements. Okay, so there you go, net worth and liquidity, qualifying for a commercial loan. That's it for today for episode number 57. Until tomorrow, episode 58, we are going out of town tomorrow, so I don't know when I'm going to broadcast this. We'll be out of town for the rest of the week until at least Saturday. I might broadcast before I leave town. I don't know. All right. Until then, have a great night. This is again brought to you by the Medicine, Marriage, and Money podcast. And everything said here is strictly for entertainment purposes only and not to be construed as legal, professional, financial, or even real estate advice. Strictly entertainment. Until then, have a great one.